Welcome, everyone. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day. And we're so glad to be here together in these trying times. We have an excellent lineup of speakers and some valuable information to share with you. So let's get started with our first speaker, Senator Adam Schiff, who is joining us, and then we'll bring on Representative Khanna.
Angela, thank you so much, and thank you to everyone who has joined us today. I so appreciate your continued engagement in the political process at home, even as you are traveling and working abroad. It couldn't come at a more pivotal time. But I want to just begin by, a little explainer on why we are here in this moment. And it traces back to broken promises by the president. That is, he promised the American people that he would bring down the cost of living, that he would try to make things easier for working families in America. And he has badly betrayed that promise, most particularly in the prices of healthcare, which are going through the roof. People are getting notices right now as we speak that their healthcare premiums in the exchanges are going up by hundreds of dollars or $1,000 a month. They're doubling in many cases. So healthcare costs are going up. He's pulling renewable energy projects offline, which mean utility bills are going up. Just across the board, he has betrayed his commitment to lower the cost of living, and he knows it. And Republicans understand that in the midterm elections, they're going to be held accountable for raising everyone's cost of living through these destructive tariff wars and everything else. In terms of the dismantling of the healthcare system, the further dismantling of it, it is to pay for tax cuts for really wealthy people and large corporations. They understand their agenda is in deep trouble with voters, and that unless they can somehow jerry-rig their way into a continued majority, they're going to lose the majority in the midterms. They're going to lose the House in the midterms. And increasingly, it looks like they may lose the Senate too. And so out of desperation, President Trump instructed Texas's governor and legislators that they needed to do this mid-decade reapportionment, something that is exceedingly rare, that is to do another reapportionment in the middle of the 10-year census period, but instructed the governor and legislature to do it. There was initially resistance in Texas, but of course, as we see all the time, that resistance gives way constantly to the president's wishes. And so in Texas, they have gerrymandered their lines to create more Republican seats, and they're doing it in other states as well. And that has really forced California to move. And I applaud Governor Newsom for his decision to embrace this, and my California legislative colleagues as well, and California voters, because the Independent Commission is popular. At the same time, I think Californians recognize that we have to suspend the operation of the commission at this critical moment when Donald Trump is trying to rig the process and perpetuate a deeply unpopular majority in the House. And so we have had to go to voters with this ballot measure, unlike Texas, which simply went to the legislature without any input from voters. We're going to the voters and asking them to suspend the independent commission, adopt new lines so that we can fight back, so that California voters are not disenfranchised, and so that we have a Congress, a majority in Congress, that is representing the American people, that is willing to put a check on the rampant illegality of this administration, whether it is blowing ships out of the water in the Caribbean, illegally withholding funding, impounding funding, whether it is sending the military to do military-style raids on apartment buildings in Chicago and repel from helicopters, or weaponizing the Justice Department, or firing the healthcare professionals at CDC. All of these injurious and often just lawless actions, if we're going to provide a meaningful constraint, we need to reclaim the House of Representatives, and I hope the Senate as well. And in terms of the House, reapportionment is key. Now, the good news in all of this is that the ballot measure is doing well. Most polls have the Prop 50 up by about mid to high single digits to low double digits. So support for it is somewhere between 50 to 55% in most polls. And the spending is starting to get lopsiding lopsided because the no on 50 forces are starting to believe that they're fighting a losing battle and pulling back some of the advertising that they had planned on. So that's encouraging. But there's still a lot of undecideds, people who are really not familiar with this debate. And perhaps even more important, there are a great many voters who, whether they turn out or not, will determine whether we succeed or not. And so much of our efforts are going to identify those voters who have not yet voted, and ballots have already gone out, and people are starting to return them. And thanks to the system we have in California, we can follow up with people and make sure they turn in their ballots. Because, like most elections, and maybe even more so in this one, turnout is going to ultimately make the difference. So making sure that you get your ballots in and making sure that we participate in grassroots efforts to turn out voters will be really key to the success or failure of this ballot measure. And while many people bemoan California as nothing more than an ATM in which candidates come and raise money, it is very much the case that the midterm elections and who will control the House may just come down to California. There's a 3 or 4 seat difference in the Congress right now in the House of Representatives. And there are more than that number of seats at stake in the ballot measure in California. And of course, to offset the redistricting that they're doing in Texas and other red states, we absolutely need to be successful in California. So it's in our hands. Once again, the fate of the nation is in our hands, which is a big opportunity and a big responsibility. And I want to thank you so much for remaining engaged. I'm sure you're getting an earful of questions and commentary about the path that the United States is on, which you probably hear more overseas from that vantage point than we do even at home. And let me say on that score, just to conclude, why this is such a pivotal moment for Californians, but also for the country. We've lived, all of us, in an era in which democracy was ever expanding. We saw new democracies being born around the world. We saw walls coming down. We saw people better able to express themselves and associate with whom they would, to marry whom they would. And we came to believe that this was inexorable. This was Martin Luther King's Morlock of the universe, always bending towards justice, until we realized suddenly it wasn't bending towards justice, that suddenly instead of seeing new democracies being born, we were seeing new autocracies being born. Instead of our rights and freedoms continuing to expand, they were starting to contract. And we find ourselves in a moment we never would have imagined, when the fate of our democracy and democracy around the world is very much at risk. And so this calls upon all of us. Our parents and grandparents' generation went off to World War to defend our freedom and our democracy. We don't have to do that, but nevertheless, our obligation to the next generation, the one after that, is every bit as important. So I thank you for zooming in today. And Angela, thank you. And Martha, for bringing us all together. Khanna, thank you for joining. Thank you for the great work you continue to do in the House. Very proud to serve with you. I know you're going to hear from Speaker Pelosi and Eric Swalwell as well, 2 fabulous leaders from California. But I thank you again. And with that, I will yield back to you, Angela.
All right. Thank you so much, Senator Schiff. I have to say, you are one of my husband's favorite senators.
Well, your husband's a good man.
Yes, yes, he is. Um, Martha, would you like to introduce Representative Khanna?
Yes, thanks so much, Senator Schiff. Let me just go on to introduce our next speaker. Khanna represents California's 17th district in Silicon Valley, a champion of progressive economic policies. He fights for Medicare for all, a $17 minimum wage, affordable health care, and free public college while rebuilding American manufacturing innovation. Born in Philadelphia to immigrant parents, Representative Khanna's grandfather was jailed for his role in Gandhi's independence movement. After losing 2 races, Roe became the first Indian American to represent Silicon Valley, creating jobs by linking tech firms with community colleges and HBCUs. He co-authored the CHIPS and Science Act, partnered with steelworkers to revitalize U.S. manufacturing, and help secure major climate and industrial investments through the Inflation Reduction Act. As Vice Chair of the Congressional Progressive Caucus and co-chair of Bernie Sanders' 2020 campaign, Roe has led efforts to cancel student debt, ban congressional stock trading, and establish Supreme Court ethics reforms. Representative Khanna, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Martha, and thank you, Angela. It's an honor to speak after Adam Schiff. I often feel after him, what more is there to say? He is so eloquent, and I always enjoy seeing him on the Sunday shows for that reason. But I will say this in a personal thing. Look, Adam has shown real courage, and when you stand up for democracy at this moment, it's not easy, and it doesn't come without real cost. And I don't want to go into all the details, everyone knows, but I just want to say that I really admire the personal courage that he's shown over these years in fighting for not only our state, but our country. And I really appreciate all of you caring so much about the country. Adam mentioned the details of the proposition, so maybe I'll just reflect a bit personally. You know, when my parents immigrated from India, it was around the time that John F. Kennedy was president. And this was the place to be. We were humming, we were leading the world, we were going to the moon, we were marching forward on civil rights, on women's rights, on peace. Everyone wanted to come to America. America was the moral beacon of the world. I mean, my parents would talk about how much excitement there was about that they were going to America. And I was born in Philadelphia in our bicentenary, and I always grew up believing in that American dream. And it is so sad to me of where we have fallen because of this president, not just in our country, but how we're looked at around the world. You know, I was just recently in China with Adam Smith, who was the ranking member in the Armed Services Committee. He had led a delegation. And they talked about how China is now using this moment to build their leadership with countries in the global south and in Africa, because America is absent from the moral leadership of the world. And you all see this. So how does this relate to this proposition? We have got to give the world and our nation a sense that the spirit of American democracy and pluralism is alive and is going to win. That means winning in Virginia with Abigail Spanberger. That means winning in New Jersey with Mikey Sherrill. And that means winning this ballot proposition in California with overwhelming numbers. We have got to show people that the Democratic Party is not flailing, that we are going to actually triumph over Donald Trump, that the forces that believe in pluralism, the forces that believe in goodness, the forces that believe in the possibility of America are stronger than the darkest forces. And right now, our challenge, the biggest challenge I feel, is sort of a despair and a doomerism and a resignedness to Trump. Well, what can we do? Well, we will push people out of that funk if we win, and if we win big. And every story is going to be the Democrats are coming back, the progressives are coming back, California is leading the way. So yes, we need the 4 seats, but this is something deeper. I think this is about the psychological state of our movement against Trump, of giving the world hope that there's an alternative. And I am grateful to our governor. I'm grateful to our speaker, Pelosi, who, you know, she obviously, like in most good things, is the mastermind behind efforts. I'm grateful to Zoe Lofgren, and I'm grateful to everyone in California. Let's have the biggest possible victory on this, and let's show the nation and the world what America really is capable of. Thank you for joining, and thank you for voting.
Sorry. Representative Khanna, do you have a couple minutes to take a couple of questions? Is that possible?
I'm happy to. I see Senator Schiff is on too.
Yeah, okay.
Defer to him if he wants to. You always got to defer to the Senate. So
yeah, okay. If anybody has a question, please write it in the Q&A box. But we have a general question that keeps popping up because everyone is super concerned about this. And Senator Schiff, you can chime in on this too. People are really concerned about the status of the SAVE Act and other initiatives to keep the GOP, that the GOP is making to keep people from doing mail-in voting. That's a real concern for our voters abroad. Is there any update on the status of that?
Ro may have an update on status. I will just say this more broadly because I hear quite often a concern, will we have a free and fair election? What can we expect? Are they going to successfully do away with absentee voting or closing down polling stations in urban areas or contesting the election after it's over? We are obviously going to fight every effort and are fighting every effort to disenfranchise people. But it is dangerous, I think, to be paralyzed by the fear of what they might do in an election and therefore don't participate in the election or don't invest as much time and energy in the election. We don't have that luxury. We have to fight as hard as we can, motivate everyone we can. We have to understand that the best election protection is by winning by the greatest margin possible. So we will use the tool that we have, the most successful tool we have to fight these disenfranchisement efforts, and that is litigation. We will be doing our poll monitoring and everything else. I wouldn't be surprised if they try to use efforts to intimidate the vote, and they could go so far as positioning immigration people near polling stations to try to discourage legal citizens from voting. So I don't put anything past them. It means that we're going to have to work harder, organize better, and overcome whatever they put in our way. But in terms of that particular legislation, I don't have a status update. I don't know, Ro, whether you are aware of where that is.
Well, my understanding, Adam, and I think you articulated well, the challenges were up. I mean, the SAVE Act would have basically, which the House voted for, disenfranchised women in this country. And what it requires, I mean, I couldn't even believe someone conceived of this, that women who were married and changed their name to take their spouse's name, as my wife did, as many people do, would have to now go and show their birth certificates and prove that they have a different name and that they were actually born in the United States and have to re-register. I mean, you'd have millions of women disenfranchised. Now, fortunately, in this case, the Senate is blocking some of the absurd things that the House is sending, and I don't think it's going to clear the Senate. But I think it's important to understand what we're up against. They will do every single possible thing to disenfranchise us. They will take every possible power that they can unless we push back. I was joking with someone the other day. I said, the only reason that they want to eliminate the subsidies of the of Obamacare Affordable Care Act is because it was named after Obama. Like Obama could have cured cancer and it would have called the Obama Cancer Cure. They would have gotten rid of that. Their anger was with Obama. That's what Trump ran again. The guy wasn't born in the United States. They couldn't deal with it. They can't deal with the fact that Nancy Pelosi, as the first woman, became speaker. They couldn't deal with the fact that we had a vice president, African American, Indian American, who almost won. We just have to be real here. They are fighting on culture. And they don't care if they have to write roughshod about some of the democracy if it means preservation of a culture that they believe they want to preserve. I don't believe that's what the culture of the American people wanted to preserve. I believe the American people want to have a cohesive multiracial democracy. I believe they're on our side. And we need to mobilize it, but understand the reactionary forces that we're up against.
Okay, we have one last question on, well, not one last question, but how do we respond to CA voters who think yes on Prop 50 would lead to all Republican states redrawing their maps and Dems ultimately coming up short?
You know what? Well, let me just end, and obviously I'll defer to Adam. The Republicans are going to do that anyway. We are in a universe where the Republicans are going to try to take every potential power that they possibly can. And one of the things I respect about the governor and the speaker is they said, well, no, we're not just going to lie down. Nothing we're doing is going to change the Republicans. They are in a view of maximizing power. whatever we do, they are going to take every possible procedural step to maximize power, legal and illegal. And whether we did this independent redistricting or didn't do this independent redistricting, they're going to continue to do it. So the question is just, are we going to lie down and let them use every procedural trick in the book, or are we going to fight back legally and procedurally? And by the way, it's the Democrats, when Adam was in the House under Speaker Pelosi's leadership, who wanted to have independent redistricting across the country. That was the John Lewis Voting Rights Bill. We pushed that. We passed that in the House. President Biden supported it. We couldn't get that past a filibuster in the Senate. All the Republicans were opposed to it. So we have the moral high ground in this country. I'm confident when we have a president again who's a Democrat in the House and the Senate, we'll get that passed. But we cannot just do nothing while they're eliminating seats across this country. One last point: they are going after Jim Clyburn's seat. Now, I've happened to read his book. There was not a black member of Congress in the South from 1895 to 1992. I was shocked when I read that. Bill Clinton's election is when we got a black congressman from South Carolina after 100 years, because the Voting Rights Act in 1965 wasn't enough. 1970, they still diluted all the black vote. 1980, they still diluted all the black vote. It took the 1982 amendments to the Voting Rights Act until we had the 1990s redistricting until we got Jim Clyburn. They're going after his seat. They're going after Emanuel Cleaver's seat. They want to undo the progress of the civil rights movement. We cannot just watch. We need to fight back with our procedural and legal tools so that we preserve the democracy.
And I'll just add, and then I'm going to have to jump off. Just by way of background, California adopted the Independent Commission because it was a good government thing to do, and a number of other blue states did similarly. The red states didn't. We made this unlevel playing field when a lot of the blue states did, what I think good policy calls for, and that is eliminated the gerrymander. But largely the red states have continued to gerrymander. So what we are doing in California really is deciding, okay, we're not going to fight this unfair fight this way anymore. We just can't afford to, not when democracy is at stake. So in red states, they've been doing the gerrymander already. In Texas, where they had already gerrymandered to elect Republicans, they're merely re-gerrymandering to elect even more Republicans. Yes, California is having to follow suit. And it may be that if New York can't, because of their particular process in this cycle, it may mean that they need to redistrict again next cycle, and other blue states as well. This is kind of a terrible spiral to be in, but it is the product of a Trump regime that is moving everything in an anti-democratic direction. Where I hope we will end up is where Ro mentioned, and that is where we started as Democrats. And that is, we carried legislation, we passed it in the House to outlaw the gerrymander nationwide. And Republicans, I think, to a person, oppose that. And I hope that maybe what comes out of this redistricting nationwide brawl is a bipartisan commitment to, at the national level, outlaw redistricting in every state, let independent commissions in every state draw the lines. That's where I hope we end up. And when we take back the presidency in the House and the Senate, we need to make sure that we make that the case. That just requires a simple vote. It doesn't require a constitutional amendment to outlaw the gerrymander. So we need to get that done. We should have gotten it done, frankly, during the first year of Joe Biden. But we didn't, and that is on us. And we can never allow that to happen again. But for right now, we have to do what we have to do to compete and to make sure that Californians aren't disenfranchised relative to Texans in the decision over who controls the House of Representatives and the policies of the nation.
Thank you so much, both of you, Representative Khanna, as well as Senator Schiff. It's just an abundance of riches to have you both here with us, and especially together at the same time. We're so grateful for everything that you do. And here at Democrats Abroad, we have many California voters. It's our biggest group, and we're doing everything we can to get out the vote. So many, many thanks to both of you for being here with us today.
Thank you. And
Thanks.
shout out to Christine Pelosi. Good to see more members of Team Pelosi here on the panel. Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you very much.
So I'm very pleased to introduce Christine Pelosi, to introduce our next speaker by video. Christine Pelosi is an elected member of the executive committees of the California Democratic Party, the National Federation of Democratic Women, and the Democratic National Committee, and a longtime friend and supporter of Democrats abroad. We're delighted to have her here today to introduce our next speaker, who has an important video message to California voters. Take it away, Christine.
Thank you, Martha. Thank you, Democrats abroad. When I was looking up your Facebook page to post it, I found a I found a whole history of work, including 15 years ago when we were getting out the vote in 2010, telling people to get their military and overseas ballots in. So we have a long history together that's very significant to me. Just a year ago today, we were in London together, live in London, trying to get out the vote at such a much more hopeful time. And I will say, as we look at the split screen around the world of Trump heralding peace in the Middle East and putting troops on the streets at home, I wish he could take a little of that commitment to peace that he's talking about in the Middle East and adopt that at home rather than talking about the war on our streets in San Francisco and Chicago and city where they were running the Chicago Marathon, by the way, safely this morning. So just to get a sense of perspective, our next speaker, the Speaker Emerita, as was mentioned by Senator Schiff and Congressman Khanna, helped to put this measure on the ballot. And I will say, in the beginning, when she called me up and said, I'm going to Sacramento and I'm going to go announce my support for this, I said, why? We've been fighting for the John R. Lewis Voting Rights Act. You passed it twice for universal commissions. I hate this. Why are we doing this? And the initial thought was, well, just put something on the ballot to change the Constitution to allow the legislature to draw temporary maps. And I said, no, you got to put the maps on the ballot or people won't believe us, right? And enough people agreed with that they then, in a shorter period of time, drew the maps. So literally when people vote, you will be voting for the maps. And you will be voting for a ballot measure that requires the commission to draw the lines after the 2030 census. And I think that's really important because when we talk to Democrats, good government Democrats like me, I always call us like the Feinstein Democrats who hate recalls and hate messing with the democratic process unless we absolutely have to. Let them know many people are uncomfortable with that. But we have to take this temporary measure that puts the maps right there on their ballot and requires the commission to do the work in 2030. The second thing I want to say is some good news out of California. We're polling at over 50%, in the mid 30s no, which means that every single ballot that is turned in is a ballot that will help us put a marker down. Some of you remember back in the day when we were trying to pass healthcare and Scott Brown won Ted Kennedy's seat. They didn't yell, yay, Scott Brown. They didn't yell, yay, Republicans in Massachusetts. They yelled 41 because he was going to be the 41st senator to filibuster Obamacare. So they thought. But when we yell 50 on election night and around the world, that should be a sign from around the world that we are drawing the line at this power grab and drawing the line at this effort to take away our healthcare, take away our freedoms, take away our own autonomy as a state. So to make that case for all of us, please listen to the following message from my Congresswoman and representatives, our Speaker Emerita, Nancy Pelosi.
Hello, Democrats abroad. It's Nancy. In Congress, I've used a gavel and I've used a pen, but the most powerful tool I've ever used is the same one that you hold in your hands right now, the ballot. The ballot is the most powerful tool in our democracy. As Americans, our vote is our power, our Constitution is our guide, and we, the people, are the heartbeat of democracy. Know your power and show your power by voting today. Right now, Trump and Republicans are illegally gerrymandering congressional maps by violating voting rights acts and trying to ban mail-in voting. How about that? the mail method that most of you and our servicemen and women in uniform overseas use to vote. The Republican plan is clear and right out of Project 2025. Rig the system, undermine democracy, and escape accountability for gutting health care and food aid for millions to give tax breaks to their billionaire donors. Our Democratic plan is also clear. The best antidote to Republicans' lawlessness and poison and extremism is to win elections with the power of our votes. Democrats abroad, you can exercise that power today by sending in your ballot. California voters abroad, the entire nation is counting on you to vote yes on Proposition 50 to stop Trump and MAGA Republicans from rigging the 2026 midterm elections before a single vote is cast next year. All U.S. citizens living abroad have the right and responsibility to vote in U.S. elections, and your vote matters now more than ever, at a time when our values, our health care, and even our free speech are on the line. Democrats have to own the ground every day until November 4th, and that means dropping your ballot today and making sure that your friends, family, and neighbors vote too. We don't agonize, we organize, and we vote. Send in your ballot now. And if you know any other Americans living abroad, send them to votefromabroad.org to vote too. Our democracy depends on you. God bless you and God bless America. Thank you. Yes on Proposition 50.
Martha, would you like to introduce our next guest?
I would, and I just want to thank Christine Pelosi for being here with us today and introducing that video. So our next guest is Melanie Ramil, who's a Deputy Executive Director of the California Democratic Party and a seasoned strategist with 2 decades of experience across the nonprofit, political, and public sectors. A self-described relentless idealist, she's advised the California Dems for the past 6 months, including leading Camp CADEM at the statewide convention. And she previously served as the California Deputy State Director for the Harris-Walz campaign, Deputy State Director for U.S. Senator Kamala Harris, and the Executive Director of Emerge California, where she helped build a strong pipeline of Democratic women candidates.
Martha, thank you so much for having me. I have to say, I feel like I am with my people today. I've been so excited to speak to Democrats abroad. As a recent digital nomad and a temporary resident in Mexico living in Playa del Carmen, I feel the energy from folks in the room and from all of you all over the world. And thank you too for being here to learn about Prop 50. Speaking, for myself, I know sometimes when I was living and working abroad, it's easy to unplug and distance ourselves a little bit for a moment while we're out of the US. But to be here together to discuss Prop 50, to answer your questions, help make sure you're registered to vote, and talk about this important proposition. Just really thankful to be here in the Zoom space with all of you today. Now, I'm born and raised proud Californian. And as you heard from Senator Schiff, Representative Khanna, and both Pelosi's that we love, we are fighting the fight. We're fighting fire with fire here in California. But for me as a proud Californian, it's not just the fact that we're doing it, it is how we are pushing Prop 50 forward. We saw what Texas Republicans did. They voted behind closed doors. Voters did not have transparency at all. And we're doing it differently in California. The speakers before me spoke to a number of this, but there's 5 really key things with Prop 50 that I'm proud of as we look at this ballot measure. 1, it levels the playing field. We need to take back the House in 2026. And as we go into the midterms, we cannot play with one arm tied behind our back as Republicans and Trump continue to mid-district gerrymander. As the senator said as well, commits to fair redistricting, not only in the state of California, but across the nation. As Christine shared, it gives voters the power. Not only does Prop 50 talk about what we're doing in mid-district gerrymandering, the voters have the maps in hand as you look at Prop 50. We're only doing this because Texas pushed forward their maps. We would not have moved forward with Prop 50 if that wasn't the case. And finally, these maps expire. This is a temporary measure that expires in 2030. So as a Californian, I cannot be more proud that we are leading the fight, not only in California, but across the nation, but how we are doing it. So fundamental to our values. It's why Governor Newsom, President Obama, Jeffries, Elizabeth Warren, Bernie Sanders, AOC, Cory Booker, all back Prop 50. It is why in California, not only did the California Democratic Party endorse Prop 50, I think less than 24 hours after the legislature put it on the ballot, over 235 organizations across the state also endorsed, and we are working in an amazing, close coordination with our coalition, teachers, labor, Planned Parenthood, and so many other organizations that see and understand what's at stake if we don't pass Prop 50. Now, at the California Democratic Party, I joined in July, and I could not be more proud of the work that we've been doing. As part of the coalition, we have been focused on our ground game in the state of California, calling voters 6 days a week, 2 shifts a day. We have seen 150 to 200 canvases every single weekend since this measure was put on the ballot. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you because, as all the speakers said before me, Prop 50 is doing well, but we cannot pass Prop 50 unless we do not see turnout. This is a turnout election. Voters are nearly in their partisan camp, so Democrats across the world, wherever you may be, we need you to get out and vote early. Also, I saw that there's some voters from across the world who live in Florida, Oregon, New York. Well, I got something for you as well. So after you vote and you still want to make sure that Prop 50 passes on November 4th, the California Democratic Party, we are not going to stop until 8 p.m. Pacific time on November 4th. And there's a number of ways you can volunteer and support in our efforts. Again, we are doing virtual phone banks 6 days a week, twice a day. We've set up a number of coalitions with our AAPI caucus, our Latino caucus, our Black caucus, our LGBTQ caucus, and our youth caucus. So twice a week, we have bilingual Spanish-English phone banks, and every Thursday night, we now have 8 Asian American Pacific Islander languages that we are calling in to make sure voters have access to the information they need for Prop 50. And as all this is going on, and we are setting up structures to reach California voters, Democratic voters across the state, we are zeroed in on voter protection. I know a lot of questions came in around that, and we have been ever committed at the party to make sure that Californians and all of us can vote fairly and freely and without fear. As we've had in the past, we have a hotline, can share that with all of you as well. Our team answers it. You won't be talking to AI or any tech or pressing numbers. You talk to our team as soon as you call our voter protection hotline. We will have a team of attorneys watching what's happening in the field as incidents across the state get reported. And this year, we're beefing up our poll observing program unlike any cycle before, and we're looking to have nearly 300 volunteers across the state in the days leading up to election and on election day. So if you happen to be home during election time and you want to volunteer for our voter protection poll observing program, let us know as well. But thank you again for having me. Thank you for being here. I don't know what time it may be. Good morning, good afternoon, good lunchtime, good evening. Maybe you're here even at midnight, wherever you are. Thank you so much. Thank you, Democrats Abroad, for the work that you're doing.
Thank you so much, Melanie. Can you answer a couple of questions? We have a person who we've actually, this question has come up before. I really want to vote yes for this bill, but I cannot get over the fact that when it comes down to it, the message is because they rigged the election in Texas, the only way for us to fight back is to do the same, which is what you're asking voters to do, allowing lawmakers to rig the map until 2030. Can we not do better than that? Is this the only way to fight back?
Yeah, I really appreciate that question. And I think Christine said it well when she called herself a good government Democrat. You know, the truth of the matter, as Democrats, we want our elections to be fair. We want our democratic institutions to be safeguarded. And that's not the case right now. It's not business as usual. If we do not pass Prop 50, Trump and the GOP will not stop. They've been talking to every single GOP-led state to see if they can squeeze out a seat here. They've already got 5 in Texas, a seat here, and they won't stop. As Senator Schiff said, their agenda is not popular with American voters, so they are trying to do everything in their power so we can't take back the House next year. So I understand. I think that, like I said, Christine called herself a good government Democrat. I think that's the case across the board. We don't want to see this, but that's also why Prop 50 includes important tenets, such as the maps expiring in 2030 and giving power back to the redistricting commission at that time. Why the maps are in front of and part of Prop 50. You know, I'll share too. A number of the redistricting commissioners in California are supportive of Prop 50. They saw that the process of how Prop 50 was placed and the process of creating the maps was fair and the response we need to take care of right now. Even the California maps I'll share with you, if you take a look at them, they follow a Voting Rights Act. Other states didn't do that. They're gerrymandered, they are not contiguous, and that's not what we did in California. We're still committed to our values here and our democratic institutions, and that's what Prop 50 really sought out to do.
Okay, another good question that you may know the answer to. Are there any other Democratic states looking to do something like Prop 50?
You know, every state is different, so I don't want to speak and share incorrect information. But of course, states have been looking at their own rules, their own processes for what that looks like. But today, I don't think there's any other really as far along as California.
Yeah, okay. And a lot of people are really concerned about gerrymandering. And this question is, we should underscore that California proposition sets a time limit on gerrymandering, but how do we outlaw gerrymandering in the first place? Like, do you have any thoughts about that? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, you know, I want to reiterate what Representative Khanna and Senator Schiff said earlier when they were trying to move forward redistricting across the nation. And that's actually why Prop 50 speaks to promoting fair redistricting, not only in California, but across the nation, and finding a way where if we can control the House next year and then hopefully win back the White House and the Senate in future cycles, we can continue to take a look at that and push fair redistricting forward.
Okay. We have a person who is actually a member of the California Democratic Party, and they're wondering, how do they find out when your meetings are? Is there a link you can share with that?
Oh, that's
Just in the
great.
chat?
Yes, I will actually drop a link tree. It includes our phone banks and our walks right now and direct contact information for our staff. I'll also put my email in the chat as well. Feel free to reach out directly.
All right. Well, I think those are all the questions that we have at the moment. Thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah, this has been a great event so far, and you've been a big part of it. Thank you.
Really appreciate everything, Melanie, everything that you and the team are doing. So grateful for you. Bye-bye.
All right, Judith.
All right. So I am pleased to introduce our next video. Since he was elected in 2018, Mike Levin has been a fierce advocate for the people of California's 49th district, which is San Diego County and Orange County, and some of you are in the house tonight. As a husband, father, and lifelong Southern California resident, Mike understands the challenges facing our communities because he lives them every day. Mike's commitment to clean energy, protecting our environment, and creating good paying jobs isn't just policy, it's personal. Whether it's constituent services, helping families navigate federal agencies, or major legislation that impacts our future, he's proven time and again that responsive, principled leadership matters. So enjoy his video.
Hi, I'm Congressman Mike Levin, representing California's 49th District. If you're a Californian living abroad, I want you to know that your vote matters. It can defend our democracy from thousands of miles away. Right now, Trump and Texas Republicans are trying to rig congressional maps and lock in control before the 2026 midterms even begin. But in California, there's a response. Prop 50, the Election Rigging Response Act. This is about fairness. It's about making sure the 2026 elections are run on a level playing field. No maps drawn behind closed doors to favor one party. It gives Californians tools to push back against coordinated efforts to steal seats through gerrymandering. Here's the timeline you need. October 6th, your overseas ballot should arrive. November 4th is Election Day. Vote yes on Prop 50. And if you're not already registered, go to votefromabroad.org and sign up. Over 200,000 Californians vote from abroad. In a tight race, those ballots could decide the outcome. If we don't act, Trump could seize unchecked power for 2 more years. So whether you're in London, Tokyo, Buenos Aires, or anywhere else, your California vote is your voice and a powerful weapon against election manipulation. But you've got to use it. So please visit votefromabroad.org, get registered, watch for your ballot, and return it in time for November the 4th, voting yes on Prop 50. Because democracy shouldn't be rigged from Texas, and Californians abroad are essential to defending it. Thanks for fighting with me.
What's next on our, oh yes, Ada Shen, you're next. You're up next. Ada's here to tell us a little bit about requesting your ballots and if you have any questions on voting. Ada, do you want to take it away?
Okay, great. I hope everyone can see my screen. Okay. All right, so this presentation, I'll try and make it brief and painless. It's about how to vote from California. So if you do not have a ballot yet, pay close attention because you can get a ballot right away. All right. I do want to emphasize first, though, please hold your questions to the end. But you can always get voter help for Americans living abroad on a nonpartisan basis at votefromabroad.org. And we also can do one-on-one, you can make an appointment to do a one-on-one Zoom call. So if what I talk about today doesn't answer your question, just reach out to folks, okay? And I will try and take a few questions at the end of this call if there's time and if folks have need. But basically, every California voter abroad, no matter where they are in the world, can vote on Prop 50. And it doesn't matter how long you've been abroad. It doesn't matter whether or not mom sold the house or any of that. You still have the right to vote in the place where you last resided, if that was in California. And if you've never lived in California, but you have a U.S. citizen parent, you can also register to vote and get a ballot to vote on Prop 50. This is really important. Every California voter abroad, and there's at least 200,000 voters abroad, but just getting a ballot, it does not mean you can return it by fax. Okay, so let me explain that. UOCAVA is the acronym. I have explained it here. It's called the Uniformed and Overseas Civilian Absentee Voting Act. This is the federal law that protects voters abroad. And to be a UOCAVA voter in California, you actually need to send in a form or need to let the California election officials know that you are an overseas absentee voter. And then you can get your ballot electronically and return it by fax. Fax sounds really dumb, but wait for it. Fax actually means e-fax, okay? So these days, if you don't have a fax machine handy because it's not the 90s anymore, you can actually return your ballot by an electronic fax method, meaning you use a fax app or there's an online fax service where you upload your scan or a photograph of what you want to fax and off it goes and they receive it as a fax on the other end. But you can only do this if you are a UOCAVA voter, okay? So again, only the ones who've requested a ballot as a non-resident Californian can return that ballot by fax. And the reason why I emphasize this is because since 2023, California is so pro-voting that every single California voter is also a vote by mail voter. That means some of you may be receiving your ballot by mail, but you're only getting instructions to return it by mail. Okay? And if you want to avoid international mail disruptions, you really want to make sure you are a UOCAVA voter. Okay, so if you don't see those instructions for being able to return your ballot by fax, you may still have to mail it. And if you are living in a country where mail is going to be difficult, we had a couple of help questions. There's someone in Canada. Canada has a nationwide postal strike. So if you're a California voter in Canada, you really want to make sure you are an overseas absentee voter, a UOCAVA voter, okay, in order to get that ballot electronically and also return it by fax. Remember, fax means e-fax. And that means you skip the mail entirely. This is really, really important, okay? Ballots have already gone out. So if you are a UOCAVA voter, ballots went out on September 20th. If you asked to receive that ballot by email, you should already have it. If you don't have it, if you don't see that in your inbox, please check your spam folder. A lot of ballots get stuck in there, okay? But again, if you receive it electronically, you can return it by fax. It's a surefire sign that you are an overseas absentee voter because you got it electronically. Domestic or in-state resident vote-by-mail ballots were mailed on October 6th. This will include those who put in overseas mailing addresses. But again, these ballots have to be returned by postal mail. If you return a ballot by postal mail, it's got to be postmarked by November 4th and received by November 12th. But again, we actually really strongly urge, avoid international postal mail altogether. Get your ballot electronically, return it by fax or e-fax. You can actually change your voter registration now. You can still do it. Just do it by October 20th. And you can do it even if you've already gotten your postal mail ballot from California and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to be able to return it by fax. I don't see fax. There's still time, but we really recommend you do it by October 20th. And the easiest way to do this is actually to go to this website. So you can scan it, you take a picture of it with your phone, or just go to the link, covr.sos.ca.gov. I'm just going to put that in the chat real quick, covr.sos.ca.gov. And that is actually the California Secretary of State website. And this is the easiest and fastest way to do it. You should get your ballot within a couple of days by email. Okay. And this is kind of what that first screen looks like when you go to that link. You want to not choose the first classification, which is U.S. citizen and resident of California. And be really careful, because if you're on your cell phone, that's the only option you'll see. So you want to scroll down just a little bit and you want to choose one of the other three, the last three options, most likely, unless you're military. You're going to want to choose, or National Guard, you want to choose that you are either outside the U.S. And temporarily, outside the U.S. indefinitely, or that you're a U.S. citizen that you've never resided in the United States. Okay. And again, if you've got a U.S. citizen parent who did live in California, you keep the right, you inherit that right to vote in California from that U.S. citizen parent who is a California voter. The deadline to register to vote in California is October 20th. Okay, this is by statute, 15 days before November 4th. This is the same deadline to update that voter registration to a UOCAVA status, right? So remember, that's overseas temporarily, overseas indefinitely, or you've never resided in California. All right. Do not wait. Please don't wait until October 20th. We really don't want to see your help requests on October 21st, although we will still help you. But it is really the most straightforward thing to get this thing done now. All right. But the truth is that it's almost never too late to vote in California. They make it so easy, it's hard. California has a thing called conditional voter registration, and it may be possible to still vote after the 20th, but it is a lot harder to get that ballot. Okay, and to do that, you would then have to contact your election officials. You can also contact us. We will do our best to help you. And we have helped voters get a ballot on a conditional voter registration basis after the 20th. But honestly, before the 20th, your life and our life will be much easier. So we really, really do urge, please get this done by the 20th. If you're returning a ballot, okay, you've got a couple of options. Again, if you're a UOCAVA voter, you get to return that ballot by fax or e-fax. And there are many free or inexpensive e-fax methods now for returning that ballot by fax. Fax Plus, Fax Zero, Genius Fax, Cocoa Fax, to name a few. We've popped in the chat some information about how to return by fax. Do note that the free service that was offered by the Federal Voter Assistance Program, the email to fax service, is no longer available. But that was actually, like, literally, not joking, 10 guys running around a room. So I would actually recommend the new services. They're actually, these other options are actually better because you get a confirmation, it's automated, you have more control over seeing that your fax has gone through. If you're returning a ballot by postal mail, again, please, please, please avoid this if you can. It must be postmarked by Election Day, November 4th, and received by the 12th. All right. If your mail is interrupted and you still feel you have to send it by mail, you may have to go to, an International Express courier option. The embassies are probably a bit late to be going with the diplomatic pouch service, so we probably wouldn't recommend that. But again, you can contact us at the help desk if you have questions. And we do have, I think Judith is sharing very helpfully in the link, How to Vote from Abroad, with information not only about the elections, but also on ballot return. Okay, so you can have a look at that in the chat. All right, when you are voting, and once you get your ballot, please vote and return it right away. Always follow the directions that come with your ballot. The UOCAVA ballot instructions may be a little bit different because you will be faxing it in. So it's a little bit different than the postal mail return ballot. Just follow those instructions that will come with it. Read carefully. If you have questions, you can contact your election officials. The information will come with the ballot instructions, or you can look it up under your state. Look up the state voter guide at votefromabroad.org. Select California and then select your county. Be sure to remember to track your ballot and make sure that it was counted. And California has a really cool uses ballot tracks, which is pretty great. I know that my ballot, my yes vote on Prop 50 has already been counted in Orange County. Woohoo! All right. If you need help, we're here. A few of us are here on the call who can actually answer your questions. If you've got any more voter help questions, please let us know. But otherwise, just go head on over to votefromabroad.org. We also have voter help support available on a one-on-one basis at votefromabroad.org/voter-support. You can also email votefromabroad at voterhelp@votefromabroad.org. All right. Thank you very much.
Ada, thank you so much, Ada. I have learned so much about California voting over the past few weeks. I'm not an expert like you, but I can definitely put people into the right direction. If you can put out those links for reserving a time to talk to someone, that would be awesome. I think. Okay, everybody. We have one more. Well, we have a couple short little things for you. Judith?
Eric Swalwell.
Yes, please.
Yes, great. So I am really pleased to introduce you to Eric Swalwell, who made a powerful video for us. He represents California's 14th congressional district, covering much of the East Bay and the San Francisco area. He served 8 years on the House Intelligence Committee, including as chair and overseeing the CIA and leading investigations into Russia's 2016 election interference and Donald Trump's impeachment. He now serves on the House Judiciary and Homeland Security Committees, some pretty important committees right now. Congressman Swalwell is the founder of Future Forum, which I love because it's a coalition of young Democratic members focused on millennial and Gen Z issues. and he's co-chair of the bipartisan Critical Materials and Personalized Medicine Caucuses. Every day, he works to ensure the American dreams remains within reach for all of us. So here's his video.
I want to thank Democrats abroad for your advocacy, not just on Prop 50, I'm going to talk about that in a moment, but for your advocacy to make sure that Democrats abroad are registered to vote and that they engage on the issues that matter. And boy, November 4, in just a few days, we have an election that matters. And not just in California, I call it the Fab Four across America. In California, you have Prop 50, where we're going to match what's happening in Texas by getting 5 seats back that they took in their rigged districting process. Donald Trump told Texas he wants 5 seats because he doesn't want to run these midterms on his ideas or his values or his policies or his achievements. No, he just wants to make the math harder for Democrats to win. So they took 5 seats in Texas. We're going to take them back here in California. We are always fighting these fights with one hand tied behind our back. It's usually the upper hand. We're not doing that anymore. So we're going to pass Prop 50 here in California and get 5 seats back. Also, just for you to track, for you to flag, for you to be aware of, on your political radar, so to speak, Pennsylvania, 3 Supreme Court justices are up for retention. That really matters. We've seen Republicans try and mess around in Pennsylvania and undo electoral results there. Keeping those 3 Democratic judges on the bench is so important for the midterms and 2028. Also, 2 governor's races in Virginia and New Jersey. We can flip a Republican seat in Virginia by electing Abigail Spanberger, and also in New Jersey by electing Mikey Sherrill. 4 races on November 4th. If we sweep those 4 races, if we can make sure that Democrats abroad are registered and able to vote in those elections, and also to advocate for those elections with text messages, phone calls, postcards, whatever it takes, contributions to get these candidates across the finish line, we will sweep November 4, and that'll be the momentum that we need going into the midterms just 1 year from now. So, Democrats abroad, thank you so much for the work that you do. It matters. The stakes have never been higher, but I'm confident that we're going to have a lot to celebrate in just a few weeks on November 4, and then the work cut out for us for the next year to win the midterms. And let me tell you this, when we win the midterms, we will cut our time in hell by half.
Love
Yeah,
that.
I would like to cut our time in hell in half for sure. Um, so everybody please vote. Martha, would you like to say something before we go?
Well, just a huge thanks to everybody who showed up today. Please share this information with the California voters you know, and it was really great to hear from Congressman Swalwell about the other incredibly important races that we have this year. And, you know, in a year like this, elections are not top of mind for everyday American abroad yet. And hopefully they will be by November 4th, but we don't want any voter abroad to wake up on November 5th wishing that they had voted the day before. So it's really important job that we all have to reach out to everybody we know, share information about how they can vote from abroad. Those deadlines are coming up. The deadline for New Jersey is tomorrow, so be sure that you share the word about how important it is to vote this year to elect 2 amazing Democratic women as governors of New Jersey and of Virginia, to keep those legislatures blue and those very important judicial retention and other court elections in Pennsylvania. We need to keep Democrats in power where they are, and it's so important the role that we can all play in voting. And of course, we've completely highlighted California today. There are hundreds of thousands of Californians who live abroad. So I'm going to say that every one of you knows a Californian abroad, and probably more than one Californian abroad. So speak. Talk about how important this election is. Talk about how important it is to level the playing field, and share the information that we've provided today with anyone who's a California voter. It is the easiest ballot I've ever seen in my life. It's got one thing on it, not like the 18-page ballot I had last year to vote in my elections. And so it was super quick to be able to return it by fax, e-fax, as Ada outlined. So please do that. And we had some amazing speakers today. We are going to be sharing this video because we know that not everybody's in the right time zone to watch it today. Thank you so much, Angela as our events director for bringing us together today and hosting this. Thank you so much, Judith, for everything that you did to make this event possible. Thank you to Ada for being our awesome California voting expert and providing all that information. Our other speakers have taken off by now, but we're so grateful for all of them, and wish everybody happy voting. If you haven't already, I sent my ballot in last week, and as I said, it's never been easier.
All right. Thank you so much, Martha. Thank you, Ada. Thank you, Judith. Thank you for the audience. And please, everybody, vote and tell your friends to vote. And especially, I just want to give a shout out to people who might know people from Cincinnati, Ohio. Please ask them to vote. Everyone in Ohio can vote in local and state elections, because in Cincinnati, Ohio, J.D. Vance's brother is running for mayor, and we can't let that happen. So please, please.